What's up, guys? Welcome to the Meeting Up Podcast. I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
And this is the podcast where we talk about your favorite directors and the deeper meaning within their films. In this episode, we're doing another franchise, RB3, not a director this time. Yeah. We're going to be talking about the Mission Impossible franchise, which is a franchise that you're very connected to, I believe.
Yeah. Well,
I think you're a big fan of
these. But I just see them a lot. I watch them a lot.
I hear you rave about these movies all the time,
what are you
RB3.
talking? Do I really?
Yeah. Yeah, especially last year with Fallout.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's
you tweet about the Rogue Nation.
Yeah,
like
they're great films.
There you go, man.
It's probably one of the best franchises, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's always that kind of weird line in the sand that it's like this imaginary line that someone drew, but you don't know who did it between this Mission Impossible and Bond. Yeah. And I was always like, I'm the Bond guy. Like, Bond is what I grew up with, and that's my obsession.
Yeah. I'm a Bond guy, too.
There you go. Like, you don't have to pick. Like, you got like, people always say, like, oh, Ethan Hunter Bond, or Bond films or Mission Impossible. And I'm always like, Bond by 10 miles. Yeah. But you have a bigger love for it than I do. Maybe because I didn't, like, grow up with these as much. This is more like a recent introduction to me. Okay. But at the same time, it's you can't deny the box office success, the tropes, the everything that kind of Mission Impossible movies have invented and currently do in the current movies and in the future movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've always found most interesting about the Bond films is, and I mentioned this right before we got on camera, is that each of them.
You mean Mission Impossible?
Mission Impossible. Did I say Bond?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bond to some extent applies too, but Bond relatively are usually directed by no-names. What's interesting about Mission Impossible is that pretty much all the directors behind these movies are all giant name directors to some extent. J.J. Abrams, not so much. Mission Impossible 3 was his debut film, but he was a big name on television, so like that kind of propelled him to doing this. Obviously, we talked about Brian De Palma last week, obviously one of the greatest directors we've seen in American cinema. After that, John Woo, one of the greatest Hong Kong filmmakers ever we've seen. Brad Bird, who did multiple Academy Award-winning animated films, and then Christopher McQuarrie, who actually won an Academy Award for Usual Suspects.
Yeah, and screenwriting.
Screenwriting, and often collaborates with Tom Cruise on a lot of stuff. So what's fascinating is that, this has always been the Tom Cruise franchise, and Tom Cruise has always made it a priority to get a different director who to some acclaim.
And that's exactly it, and we'll start off by that. The 1996, the first one, kind of is a Tom Cruise baby. It's a Tom Cruise creation, even more than a director's, like you just said. You named all those directors, kind of hired by Tom Cruise. Because the reason why is because he started his production company, Cruise Wagner, I believe. And the first movie he did, and the first movie he chose based off the Paramount IP was this one. And he did it because he liked the TV series, which was a 1960s, 1970s TV series that was pretty popular in that time. Yeah. And it was based on the IMF and all this, the same storyline basically, but he just wanted to make them into movies. And then he came up with ideas, hired screenwriters got fired, but eventually he nailed down on Brian De Palma because he wanted to, again, like JT said last week, work with the best, and who's better than De Palma. But essentially what I'm trying to get at is the fact that this is Tom Cruise's baby, even more than any other director. I don't know if you would agree with that statement, that this is more Tom Cruise's franchise than it is like a director's franchise.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I definitely think that it's become, I think now that we've seen 5 and 6 and now I think 7 and 8 they're doing back to back.
Yeah.
I think now it's becoming the Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise franchise.
Sure.
But I also think it's Tom Cruise has always been at the face of it. Every poster looks the exact same. But the actual style of each movie varies like from movie to movie. Like 1 looks way different than 2, and 2 looks way different than 3. And then 4, 5, and 6 have kind of maintained a relatively consistent thing. Except I think 6 is like the peak of like director-wise, like how these movies go. But they it kind of inflects like the whatever director brings their sensibility to it. But overall, it is a Tom Cruise franchise. Like there's no particular director you think of with these movies. You just think of Tom Cruise.
Can we nail down, if you would have to, and we haven't talked about all of them obviously, but if you had to nail down, describe the essential plots and describe the essential tones of all these movies, what would you describe that as?
Well, central plot, they're pretty much all the same. I mean,
yeah, we had like a side discussion before we went on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if you remember any of all the plots in all the movies. Like, I remember quite a few, but even now I'm just like, what happened in 5?
I think particularly 4, 5, and 6 blend together a little bit more because it actually feels more like it's a continuing the same story. Yeah. Same story arc.
But there's tropes you see in all of these movies.
Yeah, but, 3 is probably the most different out of them.
100% agree, because I just rewatched it like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I rewatched most of these, like 3 or 4 of these. 4?
Yeah.
So that's the one that stood out the most. It was like 3 is so different than all these.
Well, it's,
it's the most grounded, in my opinion. It's the most grounded of the franchise.
Well, see, some will say grounded. A lot of critics will say it's the most TV version of Mission Impossible. And, in terms of like literally, it takes the 24, the show 24, the style of like the super shaky handheld camera, the overexposure, oversaturation, and overexposure.
I love that
kind of image look. Some people have called it a 2-hour episode of Alias. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I never watched Alias, so I don't know.
I don't either, but that sounds pretty.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound bad.
I mean, to me, that's an insult. But,
sure.
Yeah, but I mean, that 3 structurally is the most different. But I think in terms of plot, they're relatively the same. But I think in style, they represent different things. Like I think Brian De Palma is very much a Brian De Palma espionage spy thriller. Like there's no. I think it's even been a point in this franchise like not to really like use guns, but. In the first one, yes.
In the
first one, there's literally not even a gun fired.
There's no gunshot.
There's one that's pointed. 2 is almost the same thing. It's a lot of knife fights. There are some gun. There's some gunplay.
Some gunfights. I mean, 3, there's like a full battle, like an army.
Yeah. Well, 3. I mean, that's to me. And then to me, I love the scene, but I also hate the scene where the fucking missile like is launched at him on the freeway. Like I'm like, dog.
That's one of my favorites.
It's great, but it looks so fake. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that's the only thing. But yeah, first one's more of a not silent, but suspenseful Brian De Palma slow burn. Yeah. Second one is a John Woo shoot bang bang.
Shoot 'em up.
Yeah, doves flying shit. Yeah. And then 3 is a J.J. Abrams, kind of stylistic, 24 inspired, also inspired heavily by Bourne, the Bourne franchise.
Yeah.
A lot of people even say that, because of Bourne was the main motivation for having the Mission Impossible series brought back into the forefront. So it takes a lot from 24, it takes a lot from Bourne. It has that kind of shaky, more grounded style. And the fourth one has a more blockbuster, cinematic kind of style to it. So.
But if I had to be honest and I had to say name some tropes that appear in almost every single one of these movies, it's the biggest one you think of is action set piece that blows people away.
Well, I was thinking The Mask. That's why I was first.
The Mask. There's always some sort of reveal or there's some sort of betrayal. I feel like that's in almost every Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I was rewatching the third one, and I was like, yeah, Billy Crudup is betraying them. And then in the fourth one, there's like another betrayal. And then the fifth one, you're like, yep. And then the final one, Henry Cavill, 20 minutes, not even, like 15 minutes in that movie. I'm like, bro, this guy's clearly a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even hide it.
Yeah.
There's always like someone on the team who betrays them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always like usually the new guy kind of thing.
Well,
that's a trope.
It's always the new guy.
And it's always this sense of like, over the topness and not super like ridiculous like the second one probably, but there's always a sense of like it's not quite super grounded on reality. It's always like,
no,
we got to do it with you got to fly off a plane with no backpack and this and your shoes are tied and you got to untie your shoes. Like there's always like this crazy, and that's a very 70s, 60s kind of thing that they took from it.
Well, it's not even 60s, 70s. It's just the cinema thing, like nobody really understands what spies do. You know what I mean? If you were to really find a spy and like ask them what they do for a living, what they'll say is that they occasionally change makeup, they learn a lot of different languages, and they just sit around and read newspapers as they watch somebody silently from like a mile away. You know what I mean? Like it's not like any of the type of shit that they do in this movie or any other spy movie. So it's the same way with Bond. I mean, Bond is like completely over the top.
It is, yeah. But at the same time, there's still a sense of like you can feel it. There's a tiny bit of sense of grittiness. And
not
Daniel
in the
Craig,
new ones. Yeah, in the new ones, maybe. But
Yeah, I'm talking about the new ones.
I'm talking about 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, of course.
Like all of that shit. Like
because
that
it's
is completely
sure. But what I like
unrealistic.
about Bond is that they had kind of take a little bit from each era that they're in. Whether it's like the GoldenEye is like super 90s, and then the Roger Moore is
they're all products at a time. Whereas
that's why I love the new ones. Daniel Craig.
Well, yeah. Whereas Mission Impossible kind of varies by director, Bond differs by generation for sure. But I even think, even still, like 90% of the shit that James Bond does throughout the franchise, even old and new, like is completely out of the realm of like realism, though. Like for the most part, to me, like I've always loved Casino Royale, but I always thought the part where he does the parkour over amazingly shot scene, beautiful scene.
Yeah.
But like at that moment, I'm like, all right, this no spy would ever fucking
be
chasing
that's
after
an actual
these.
dude doing that.
Yeah.
So it's still like
nice. It's cool.
It's not a CGI person flying around.
Yeah, it's not like Mission Impossible 3 where they literally added in the shaky camera effect, like to make it feel in post production. But I definitely think that what Mission Impossible I think kind of prides itself on is the idea that it is adapted from this 1960s show, a show that was about espionage, but it was also about deceit and the mask. Like the mask is a very iconic thing from the original show, and that just goes to show the what was going on in that generation at that time period, right? Like during the 60s, the 70s, a lot of people had a lot of doubts about what was going on in the government. A lot of people had a lot of conspiracy theories. A lot of people didn't necessarily have a general trust of what was being presented to them. So the original TV show in and of itself kind of embodied that by making these spies who wear these ridiculous over-the-top masks, and they rip them off, and it's turned out to be somebody totally different. Because during that time period, that's really what we saw a lot in the news. That's what the whole Richard Nixon Watergate scandal. Those recordings came out, and it's like that's a completely different president than what people initially elected. And a lot of that. A lot of unveiling, a lot of things that were unveiled during that time period. Really, civil rights movements in their example, something that unmasking the ugliness that like is seething like underneath our country. Same thing that we're facing with in today's era too. So I think even they kind of use the face stuff in the first one and second one and third one. Like they use it, but it's not like it's prevalent. But to me, I've always I've kind of noticed the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one rely much heavier on that as the franchise, much heavier on the face mask and reveal thing than I think all the previous ones had.
Interesting,
the franchise.
really.
And I think that just goes to show the times that we're in. You know what I mean? It goes to show that people are more untrustworthy than they are before, and these movies are starting to reflect that.
Yeah, if I'm being real honest, everything you said is spot on.
Yeah.
But I can't lie. That's the one thing that I remember watching these movies for the first time that really took me out of the movies. I was like, that's the most unrealistic, more than guys jumping out of planes and like backflipping on buildings. Like to me, I was like, really?
Right.
A Scooby-Doo, like it was me the whole time, and I was like, no, that's not possible.
Well, you see, but even look at Scooby-Doo came out in that exact same time period.
That's what I'm saying. They got it from Scooby-Doo, man. Let's be real.
But
Scooby-Doo's ahead of his time, bro. Let's go.
Hey,
give a shout out to Scooby-Doo,
Yeah, you
bro.
gotta give it a shout. But Shaggy's my guy, man.
Yeah, Shaggy leaning back, smoking with his dog.
Doobies, man. That's what it's about. Yeah, man. Those are good guys.
Daphne, Velma. Shout out to Velma. That's my girl.
My glasses.
Yeah.
I can't find my glasses.
And I'll be like, I'll find your glasses, girl.
Oh, man. That's nasty.
What is nasty about it?
She's like, she's bent over on the floor.
That's not what I said.
You just gotta get behind
Why you take it out of context?
God
dang.
We gotta cancel you, bro. You gotta That's some disgusting shit, man.
I didn't say that.
Christ.
I just said Velma's cute. She's a cartoon character. Damn, bro. Throw me under the bus.
Man. Mission Impossible.
What I'm saying is, like, it's a very goofy trope. It's very Scooby-Doo 1970s, 60s cartoon kind of trope. It's super goofy. But like you said, it's a much more metaphorical thing.
Yeah.
What it represents is like
I think
the unmasking of, like, who's the real villain. And it's usually if you
somebody
watch,
you're close to,
it's
somebody you
usually
trust.
like a U.S. government guy. It's usually some politician or some bureaucrat
or somebody's
some
working for the
senator.
politician.
And it's like Billy Crudup. It's like the guy with the suit who's like he's on your side, and it's like nope. He reveals the mask, and it's like actually I'm a terrorist and I'm working with the Taliban or whatever it is. Like
and to be fair, Bond has a variation of that, but it's not through unmasking. It's not through the mask. It's through the women. Like the very clear thing through Bond is that the mistrust of women and how women are the Bond girl usually turns out to be the one who stabs them in the back. And usually is like the daughter
the
of
femme
the main.
fatale kind of thing.
Exactly. So, you know, every spy franchise kind of has to rely on that back style and that portrayal, and it depends on how it's portrayed. Now that, you know, again, maybe this is another reason why I like the sixth one a little more too. They take the whole mask thing to a whole another level.
They do.
And the beginning,
and it killed me. I was like, what the hell?
With the CNN Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah.
So by the way, I mean, listen, I've been saying CNN's fake news for a long time.
Oh shit! You're pulling out the Trump sticker now, bro?
Nah. There's no Trump sticker, man. The DNC. I mean, real Democrats have known. You know,
all right.
CNN's not been good to us for a long time. But it's funny how they even show that. It's like, you know, the main prevalent. This movie came out what, 2016, 2017?
Came out 2017.
2017. Shit might have even been 2018.
It might have been last year.
Yeah.
I think it was last year.
But I mean, in the face of like having the fake news be the front and center topic for the past 3 years, to open your movie with that trope, you know, it's definitely saying something about our society. It's a societal commentary to something. So
yeah. Can I also mention too that this is a side note that usually terrorism is a big part of this movie of these movies. I'm sorry, but it's usually the terrorist is always like I got to give credit to them. We were talking about The Boys like 2 weeks ago, and they had to do the classic Middle Eastern terrorist. Yeah. In these movies, it's usually a white guy. Like it's usually like a South African white guy in the what was it, the sixth movie or the fifth movie? It was a South African homie.
I don't know.
And then in Mission Impossible 4,
all white people look the same.
It was a Swedish homie, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman in 3. In 6.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is the best villain, I think.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, it's like usually it's subverting expectations of like you imagine like I've been here the whole time, you know, like a crazy Middle Eastern guy. But it's usually like no, it's this passive Swedish guy who's usually chill. He's actually a terrorist.
Super smart type shit, which is really where the biggest terrorists derive from. These super smart, intelligent, you know, psychopaths.
Exactly.
And a lot of times the people who get blamed for the terrorism, you know, who take the most grief from it is the Middle Eastern. Yeah. I mean, that's why I'll love to the London Has Fallen, the second film in that franchise. I saw it at the premiere. I got a ticket for it. Not a good movie. Yeah. And I think the movie literally opens on like a drone strike happening on like a Middle Eastern, like a Middle Eastern family or something like that. And then that literally kicks off the events in the movie. Sure. And that just, to me, it's like you're just going out of your way to perpetrate a negative stereotype.
Yeah, I'm over that. I'm over, like, you and I agree on the whole, I'm over the evil Russian thing too.
Yeah.
Like, we get it.
Yeah. Well, the fourth one had an evil Russian kind of plot in it.
But they were kind of low-key.
They're kind of helpful too.
I was going to say, they were kind of like, even Ethan Hunt, maybe because I just rewatched this one last night, the fourth one. What was it, the fourth one?
Yeah,
the fourth one. Yeah, I saw Ghost Protocol last night. Yeah. Even he's like, hey, let's alert the KGB that it's some crazy Swedish guy that's going after them. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we can't because Russia's pissed at us. And I was like, Ethan Hunt's low-key trying to help Russia. Right. Like he escapes with a Russian prisoner. Right. Which kind of shows like a little mini bridge. I'm stretching, I'm reaching, but at least there's some sort of like, hey.
Well, I think especially in the 60s, that would have been like the main. They would have been facing off the KGB versus, you know, the IFM or whatever.
And speaking of London Has Fallen, the first one is North Koreans, right?
Yeah.
So there's always like some sort of villain that you have to. A nationality that you have to put for them. Which is why movies nowadays, like James Bond movies and other spy movies or Bourne movies, usually do like this international thing because they don't want to paint this broad brush of one nationality. Right. They always say like the Ten Rings, for example, in the MCU movies. Obviously they're Middle Eastern. Right. But in the other movies, they tend to be like, well, there's some all over the world. They're Swedish and what is it, Hungarians. They do
Guy was
that.
played by a British actor.
Yeah, but they do that to kind of like not
Yeah.
try to be so stereotypical,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
personally appreciate, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
Even though it
100%.
might not be realistic, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Let's start with De Palma, the first one. This is the one that started it all.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a lot last week.
We did. We can kind of just mention the big parts of this movie and kind of what it started. The first thing I want to say about it is that this movie was a huge success. I
Yeah.
believe it was. I think it
Yeah.
made a lot of money in box office.
Yeah, I think it was one of the top 10 movies in 1996.
Yeah.
And which was also the same year that Jerry Maguire came out that year too.
One thing I got to mention too is the fact that Tom Cruise, one of the reasons why, and this is the one that started it all, the whole Tom Cruise does his own stunts, is because he's a producer and because he went out of his way to say, I'm doing my own stunts, and if they can't say no because I'm the producer and I'm covering everything.
Right.
So I'm literally going to do my own stunts.
Yeah.
And there's been stories and stories for each movie where they try to pull him back, and he's always like, nope, I'm the boss. I'm doing this. I'm jumping out, or I'm doing that, or I'm doing the crazy rappel scene. That's all Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Well, well, arguably for the rappel scene in particular, I think there are a couple shots on the Burj Khalifa that is a stunt double. I think that have been confirmed.
Oh yeah, I'm
Like
talking
two
about the
shots of
rappel
that.
scene for the De Palma movie.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's 100%. Yeah.
Which is
Tom Cruise,
still
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So this comes from the connection of like one of the reasons why this is a big letter thing. Tom Cruise wanted to do these movies is so he can do his own stunts and so he can kind of like prove himself as this action star.
Yeah, which is I think it's interesting. I think it obviously harkens back to the old Hollywood philosophy of like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, who put their lives on the lines for making these movies. That's really great, really appreciated, and there wouldn't be cinema without those guys. I'm not 100% sure if that's like necessary today, but all respect to Tom Cruise. I'm never gonna knock a man for literally putting his life on the line for the sake of cinema. That's what I'm all about, So that's dope. I mean, that's super sick.
But it's become his signature now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what will Tom Cruise do next? He's crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you got to think beyond the Mission Impossible franchise. He really doesn't have a lot of crazy, insane stunts in his other movies. You know what I mean? Edge of Tomorrow, he's wearing a big mech suit. That's probably some
Edge
of
of
it was
Tomorrow-
CGI, but some of it was practical too. The Mummy is a lot of CGI.
I was gonna say that I can counter you though because Have you seen the Edge of Tomorrow behind the scenes and the interviews
Yeah,
where they
I mean,
talk about that
well,
mech
yeah.
suit being crazy?
I mean, yeah, he's wearing the mech suit,
Yeah.
but I do think that he's not jumping out of an actual helicopter when
Sure.
he's shooting that movie. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
he'll save the real stunt work for.
But
the
even
Mission
in Jack
Impossible film.
Reacher when he does that driving scene, like that's all him.
Oh yeah. Well, that's drive. Well, I guess that's true. That's
You'd be
stunt- that's
surprised,
stunt work.
bro. Most
Yeah.
people don't do their own.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course not. But also, like, do you think? I mean, I don't know, man. A lot of people kind of think about the whole idea of Tom Cruise doing his own stunts, right? And a lot of people kind of mention. Or not mention, but a counter argument sometimes is, are the stuntmen being cheated out of work because Tom Cruise is pursuing his own vanity project by doing his own stunts?
I don't
Is he
think so,
adding
man.
an unnecessary risk to the production by putting his own body on the line instead of not hiring stunt doubles?
The reason why I don't think so is because any interview that you see with stunt people and stunt coordinators and stunt doubles, they all feel like this sense of collaboration with him. Where they're somehow being like. They're part of the tag team process. They're part of I almost feel the opposite of that. I almost feel like he's giving stunt doubles and stunt performers a platform. Like he even puts him in that guy, the Asian guy in the bathroom. He's always behind a mask. He's been in Hollywood for years. I've known that guy. Like he's in Game of Thrones, but he never shows his face. And the fact that Tom Cruise was like, "No, you're an actor now. I'm gonna put your face on there." Like that's a big deal. I think he's giving platform. To stunt doubles and stunt performers and saying, hey, these guys are the real heroes of Hollywood. Let me collaborate with you. Let me do something with you where I'm going to put you in a scene that you might have not been in. We would have put this good-looking British dude, but now I'm going to put this crazy Asian guy in there because he's the best in Hollywood.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that's the vibe I get. And it's also because, obviously, I've told you about my brother's stunt company.
Right.
But Tom Cruise is one of those guys where it's like, yo, that's my boy. That's my boy. Like, that's the kind of vibe that I've gotten from them. Him, Keanu Reeves is another guy where they love Keanu Reeves.
Everybody loves Keanu.
Like, you've the 8711 guys, for example.
Yeah.
My brother's friends with them in their studio. I told you about that. And they just they're like, dude, they appreciate that he does his own stunts. They feel like, man, he's giving us a platform. He's making us a part of these movies.
Right.
Giving credit to stunt coordinators and performers. And now stunt coordinators and actors are becoming like directors, and like, look at the John Wick movies. Look at the Russo brothers, the stunt coordinators for all their movies. He's making his own movie with Chris Hemsworth. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Now,
So
my other question would be though, I think what I was referring more to was the fact that, like, for example, for Mission Impossible 6, when they were filming that and he broke his ankle in that stunt,
Sure.
and they had to shut down production for 2 weeks, and it kind of backed a lot of people's schedules up.
Yeah.
All the way down to the lowest level of the crews, right?
Sure.
The PAs, for example. Do
Yeah.
you think that to some extent is being selfish, or
yes and no, because that's few and you can count all the times that he's been hurt on set, and it's actually not that many compared to accidents, for example, like the Star Wars: The Force Awakens, when Harrison Ford shut down production for like a month. Remember?
Yeah, because he crashed the plane.
You see what I'm saying? Like, shit happens.
Yeah.
You can't really blame the guy for doing what he's been doing for years now, which is his own stunts.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's just part of the process. And now people almost have, movie studios almost know that shit's going to go down with these crazy action movies, so they're almost like prepared for it. I think so, because shit, like I said, shit happens. Look at Daniel Craig and what was the new one? Didn't he get hurt and like shut down production for like a month and a half? Remember that? The one they're shooting right now with a homie.
Cary Fukunaga.
Cary Fukunaga.
Yeah, I heard that might be fake.
Really?
Yeah.
Either way,
either
way, he shut down production. Maybe he's sick or maybe he's
yeah.
bored. But either way, like, it happens, man.
Right.
It happened with J.J. Abrams in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, he broke his arm or some shit on the Millennium Falcon.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But yeah, man.
So I personally think like there's like a union there where like there's like some sort of collaboration he has and like a sense of like honor that he's given these stunt guys. Because to be honest, man, the plot in these movies almost don't matter. It's mainly just like this movie is making international box office numbers. These movies are because of I'm going to see the craziest action set piece I've ever seen on the biggest screen that I can possibly see it on.
Yeah.
That's the selling factor for these movies.
So I will say that the story for 6 is probably the best, I think, of all the stories that, like, the most linearly, like 5 and 6. I actually think maybe 5 because to me 5, maybe it's just me, but I think 5 had the best scene with the opera.
That's right. You love the opera scene.
Yeah,
and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But either way, 6 is interesting. But let's finish up on 1. Obviously, the repel scene, we talked about it last week with De Palma.
Yeah.
But the fact that's hard. Can I be the first one to say, like, as someone who just sees that on TV and sees that on screen, it's not super flashy, but it's still freaking hard.
Yeah, his body has to lay completely flat.
Dude,
No motion.
I mean, the core strength that people always talk about, like, oh, that takes a lot of core strength. Like, you have no idea. It's almost impossible for, like, a normal human being.
Yeah.
But Tom Cruise isn't a normal human being.
No.
John Woo did the second movie, and this, people always put this one on the bottom of their list if they're ranking the Mission Impossible movies. Would you agree, RB3?
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of narrative sense. There might have been some studio interference. I'm not 100% sure about that. But the thing about John Woo, as a filmmaker, he's a very masculine filmmaker. A lot of his films are about masculinity, are about violence, are about honorable men doing honorable things or dishonorable men. A lot of times with his Hong Kong gangster movies, like Hardboiled, are a lot about dishonorable men looking to take an honorable path or looking to do what makes them feel their own sense of fulfillment through honor or whatever, you know? Tom Cruise, you know, as much as I love the guy, he's not the most machismo type actor. Like his range is more of the smooth cat. You know what I mean? He's more of the cool, calm, and collected type. He's not the ready to blow shit up when necessary type that John Woo kind of usually works with. I mean, we both saw Face Off. I mean, he took Nick Cage, already insane Nick Cage, to like a whole nother level. You know what I mean? So it's just like John Woo, he has a very type of film that he makes with a very particular type of style and didn't necessarily mess with the franchise. That being said, though, one of the coolest stunts, I don't want to say my favorite, but one of the coolest stunts was the knife almost going into Tom Cruise's eye. That was really filmed in real life. The knife actually got that close to his eye.
It did, yeah.
And Tom Cruise really like went for it. That's insane.
Yeah, the rock climbing scene in this movie is ridiculous.
The rock climbing scene was actually not approved by the studio head.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the studio head did not approve of the rock climbing scene. So Tom Cruise and John Woo just kind of filmed it, and then he called afterwards and told them that they got it. So
interesting. You know what's the thing that stands out the most? I don't know if I think it's this movie, is the parody that Ben Stiller does. Have you seen that? Where Ben Stiller is the stunt double for, I think it was like an MTV Movie Awards for Mission Impossible 2. It's so funny. Yeah, go ahead and look it up. But it's I think that's the biggest thing that stands out to me in this movie, where he's like, yeah, everyone thinks I'm Tom Cruise, and I got the laugh, I got the ha 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 ha, and he stands next to Tom, and they both laugh at the same time. It's so cheesy, but I love it, dude. I think that's the thing that stands out the most for me in this movie. But to be fair, everything you're saying about John Woo is correct. However, if you are a fan of John Woo, you know RB3 that I always try not to say this word, but people use different words. They can say ambitious or they can say quirky, but my thing is like over the top is the best way to describe pretty much all of his movies, man. All of his movies are crazy, over the top action set pieces that are kind of purposely low key, kind of funny, almost John Wicky. With the way they're shot and directed, and like the insanity that's going on screen is just so much.
Well, I think it might not even
brand,
it's not even necessarily. I would even say over the top. I would say it romanticizes the violence. You know what I mean? He loves the sensation of film, the movement of film. A lot of times when go back to old Hollywood theory and old film theory and all this stuff. There's the idea of movement, right? The idea of movement creates energy through film, and that audiences are attracted to movement. So the more movement you add in your shot, the more dynamic is going to feel. So for him, he pushes that to the literal extreme. The dove thing seems like a joke, but probably in his mind, and I think in the mind of the mind of the viewer subconsciously. You're seeing doves flying in all different directions, character walking towards the camera, and usually the camera's moving in some sort of way. So you're getting 3 axes of movement, that type of way.
Can we take a step back and just appreciate someone like a John Woo and what he's done for action movies and what he's kind of inspired nowadays? I wouldn't say directly inspired franchises like the Fast and Furious franchises or the Mission Impossible ones, but low key kind of.
Yeah,
Can I be the first one to say that there is a beauty to romanticizing action and violence and horror, and there is that line, and I think audiences nowadays and critics nowadays almost don't want to see that connection, almost want to see like Born Supremacy or super gritty, grounded movies where you feel the punches. But there's a beauty to over-the-top action, man. It really is. Like, obviously, John Wick is the best example, but he's even slightly over the top. Let's think of something like a Blade 2. Have you seen Blade 2?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I adore that movie. And part of that movie, 70% of it, is like it's a horror vampire movie. The other 30% is kind of over the top, and it's kind of goofy, but it makes it much more, I don't know why, it makes it much more tangible for me, where it's something that's unique and I can hold on to it, where we're having vampires walk towards the camera in slow motion as Mos Def raps in the background. Come on, man. That's gold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you see a little bit of that in The Matrix.
Yeah.
Where The Matrix is like the perfect action movie. But even The Matrix has like moments. Over the top little action moments where you're like, okay, I could see you winking at the camera. And
slow motion is, not to cut you off, but slow motion has always been a thing throughout action cinema.
Yeah.
But John Woo kind of perfected the usage of it in his films.
And that's what I'm saying with these movies. That little wink that directors give me during those scenes, I just take it and I just hold it dear to my heart. And maybe it's just because I saw It Chapter 2, and there's so many moments in those movies where it literally winking at the camera during horror moments that I was just like, I see you, bro. I see you, Andy. I appreciate it. And I feel like
Andy Muschietti.
I feel like that's what John Woo does in all his movies.
Yeah.
The scene where homeboy, I forget the movie, but when he's going down the ladder, the stairs, and he's shooting, and he's sliding down the stairs. Stuff like that, bro. You're like, bro, that's insane. I love it.
Yeah.
Any last words on Mission Impossible 2?
Nah, man. I mean, I think that
You find the Ben Stiller video?
I did find the Ben Stiller video. Yeah,
okay. I haven't seen it in years, but I remember watching that like live. Let's move on to a lot of people's favorites. I wouldn't say it's everyone's favorites, but it's the usually a unanimous choice for being their favorite.
Well, is it?
A lot of people
today.
Yeah, a lot of people say
after 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, a lot of people like 4, 5, and 6 more. You're right, but I feel like still today there's still a lot of people that love Mission Impossible 3, man.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I like it, but I think when we talked about the JJ episode, I think I said the same thing. Like, it really is just a Bourne movie with Ethan Hunt in it.
I love watching this movie and just knowing J.J. Abrams directed it. So you see all the casting. Yeah. You see Homeboy, I forget his name, Benji, Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
You see Kerry Russell.
Yeah.
Is that Kerry Russell, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You see Homeboy Matt Park.
Who's Matt Park?
From Heroes. I forget his name, but he's the telepath in Heroes.
Oh, shit. I never watched it.
But he's in all of J.J. Abrams' movies.
Really?
He's in Star Trek. He's in The Force Awakens. Like, he's in all of them.
Yeah.
But I love watching, knowing J.J. Abrams did it, where you're like, bro, he's like, I'm going to put my friends in this movie. Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says. And he does.
I just don't know how J.J. got that power, man. Like, how do you make that big power move from TV to film?
It's crazy. It really is. But he low-key is loyal. That's a loyal homie. He puts his homies in his movies.
Yeah.
Like, in pretty much all his movies.
Yeah. But does that make them quality films, Ace? That's the question.
I don't know, man, but it's something I appreciate. I can't lie. Yeah. It's something that I'm like, I see you, man. That's something I would do. I'd be like, I got you, bro.
Right.
It's like, bro, I need a job. I'm going to put you in my movie.
Right. Or they're like, these movies suck so much. I don't want to be in your movies anymore. Yeah. Is anybody going to say that to JJ?
No, probably not, man.
JJ hasn't made a bad movie.
I don't think he has. No, he's pretty good, man. But either way, I really enjoy this movie, man. I think it's one of the most different ones. We both kind of agreed on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's get a little bit more into that. Why is it different? What makes it stand out?
Stylistically, it's different. Embraces it much more.
There's not really one action scene that you can kind of nail down. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, again, and some people would put that again on the onus that JJ came from TV, so he doesn't. These are things that critics have said. I'm not necessarily saying these things.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with that, to be honest.
I mean, I could see what they're saying. I mean, I could see the fact that not having a sense of scale for movies, not having a sense of scale for a lot of times TV, you have to be confined to the limited budget kind of filmmaking that you're kind of engrossed in, But the opening sequence is probably the biggest scene.
It is
with the whole team and Kerry Russell.
The warehouse.
Yeah, and Kerry Russell gets her head taken off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think to me, the thing I take most from this film is Philip Seymour Hoffman. R.I.P. to that man. And we didn't even mention him during the Hunger Games talk.
One of the greatest actors.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I mentioned him, Plutarch Heaven's
Feet. Yeah. I mean, we mentioned
I just didn't mention his performance.
Yeah,
he's incredible in Hunger Games.
Yeah. He's incredible in everything. Yeah,
The Master.
Everything touches go. Fuck The Master, man.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen The Master, watch that movie.
That's acting class right there.
Oh yeah.
Jesus
Between
Christ.
Joaquin and him.
Joaquin, another goat.
Yeah.
Shout out to him for playing a memorable villain, even though he's only in it for 20 minutes, to be honest. I rewatched this one a couple days ago, so I was like, man, he's low-key, Billy Crudup is in it more than he.
Right.
Shout out to Billy Crudup, too. I love the guy.
Right. Watchmen.
Yeah, Watchmen. Dr. Manhattan. I love him.
Yeah.
But either way, he's still so memorable just because he is so intimidating, just being just a regular dude.
Yeah. He's honestly
he's not physically imposing.
He's not physically imposing, but he's psychologically.
Yeah,
imposing.
that's what it is.
What I mean?
It's the idea of I'm smarter than you and I'm gonna kick your ass using my brain.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, the whole ending between him and his wife. See, that's also what makes
it opens the movie with that. What do you think about opening the movie with the whole "I'm going to shoot your wife" thing?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a good hook. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
definitely a good hook. I think that's what kind of makes it the most different. Is for one, it's non-linear. For two, we've seen Ethan Hunt in part 1 and part 2 kind of be the single man. This kind of in the same vein of his Bond being the single bachelor type.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the only spy movies that we see the spy actually get married.
He settles down. That's right.
Yeah. But then,
and this is following 2, where he's having the craziness with Danny Newton too.
Right. Exactly. So it's just kind of a way to completely reboot. I mean, that's kind of JJ's thing. He'll just come into a franchise and completely reboot it and give it a clean slate, essentially. So that's what this movie does, and it kind of just does that right off the bat, and then it establishes a completely different tone and structure than what came before it. So.
Yeah, it is. It's very. I really do agree with you. It's very different. I mean, obviously, the scenes that stand out the most is the shootout on the bridge. In my opinion, I think it's classic. I love it.
Again,
the drone.
I like it, but it just to me it just looks too unrealistic.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love the shininess of it.
Yeah,
the contrast.
Yeah. That's
color,
always just me.
Color coding.
But then also the whole, I don't know if you ever, I mean, you probably didn't. But back when in like 2000, I think in 2011, you could download a Mission Impossible app where you could kind of we could like film something and then you could just have like a missile just launch into the middle of the frame or whatever and just explode. And they used the exact missile from that in that app. You know what I mean? Because there was no missile. Because it came out when Mission Impossible 4 came out. Yeah. But there's no missile in Mission Impossible 4. So you literally used the missile from Mission Impossible 3. Yeah. And it just had it as an app. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. That's a great scene though. I love it, man. I think that's a great scene. I think that one, obviously the one that everyone goes to is the Vatican escape or the kidnapping in the Vatican. Yeah. It's a very tension-filled scene.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
But other than that, I felt like the Shanghai swing, as crazy as that was, like remember when he's swinging across the building?
Sure. Yeah.
It was okay. Like I didn't feel the cinematic level of it.
The movie's shot in so many close-ups. It's kind of unbelievable.
That's true.
I mean, there's literally a scene where Philip Seymour Hoffman's like talking, and you literally see this much of his face. I'm like, holy fuck! Could somebody not like put the camera back 2 inches?
Yeah.
Come on,
then
JJ.
Again, man, De Palma did a lot of close-ups in the first one.
Yeah, he did. He
did a lot.
I mean, they just weren't as extreme as this. And they weren't on anamorphic, so it wasn't like the black bars like overly exaggerated.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Or was it anamorphic? I actually would kind of like to see that the flank flat scene just in 3D. Like if that scene was if they would ever release it in 3D, I'm sure they never would. Yeah. But if they were to re-release the first Mission Impossible in 3D, I would love to see just that scene alone. I could just only imagine how it would pop in the frame. But
that's a big part of these movies, and I'm going to get to it in the fourth one. But the last thing I'll say in the third one is it introduces Benji. Into the franchise. And now he's in all the movies.
Yeah.
You got that J.J. Abrams little cheddar, man.
Well, he's the only one who actually pretty much. Also, Vin Rames.
He's in a lot of them, but he wasn't in 4.
Yeah.
I don't think he was in 5. He might have been in 5.
He was in 5.
You're right. He was in 5, but he wasn't in 4. I remember that.
He might have come out at the end of 4. I think the last scene. The last scene in 4.
Okay, you're right.
4, yeah. Also, the wife came out in 4 too, at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the last.
I know she was in Fallout.
Yeah. The last scene was literally the wife and Vin Rames talking, and Tom Cruise is looking like from far away or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I much respect to having Benji and Vin Rames be the only 2 characters that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's usually like a new team every time if you think about it.
It looks
the
like
third one.
Yeah.
Maggie Q, Jonathan Rhys Meyers.
I don't know any of these actors.
Yeah,
but
she's the Asian girl. And Maggie Q, and then obviously Thandie Newton in 2.
Yeah, Paul Patton in 4.
Paul Patton in 4 is the big standout for sure. All right, after this break, we're gonna get into 4, 5, 6, and then we're gonna rank our favorite moments from the franchises. So make sure you tune in. All right, guys, we're back talking about the Mission Impossible franchise. Now let's get into, I don't know if it's one of my favorites. Obviously, we're going to talk about favorites, but it's definitely like one of my favorites, and that's Ghost Protocol. And one of the reasons why RB3 is that I saw this movie in IMAX. And I don't see a lot of movies in IMAX, if I'm being real.
Hey man, if you're at AMC A-list, you can see any IMAX.
I know. I'm penny pinching, bro. I'm just like, I'm taking that.
You go spend $20 at ArcLight.
I know. I only go to ArcLight. Low key though, that's not true though.
What?
Because I was looking up tickets for It Chapter 2, and I looked up the ArcLight ones were cheaper than the AMC ones.
Hey,
they were cheaper, man. Yeah.
Then like IMAX AMC or regular AMC?
No, I'm talking about regular AMC and regular ArcLight.
Oh, nice.
They were cheaper in ArcLight.
Well, hey, I got the AMC, 25 a month, so that's, I'm not paying for them normal price bullshit.
Either way, I only do ArcLight unless it's a movie that's close by in Burbank, which is what I did last time. Yeah. But either way, I saw this in IMAX, and I feel like that had a big part of my reaction to this movie because the action set pieces literally took my breath away. Where I was like, nope. And I was talking to the screen, just being like, no, that's too much, fam.
Wow.
Because this features one of the most famous Mission Impossible scenes already, and probably my favorite, which is the Dubai Burj Khalifa climb / falling / everything that Tom Cruise does outside of that building, where that building is so high that just the atmosphere and the wind is just blowing. It's like 132 stories or something like that. Something crazy, man. It's just it blows me away every time. But besides that, this movie's actually I don't know. I find it interesting. I find it engaging. I think it's really cool. Like I said, it's about the Swedish guy who wants to make nuclear weapons. It starts out with the Russian prison breakout. It starts out with Benji being like, I think Benji's like at his best. Well, almost at his best in this movie, being the comedic relief.
I mean, comedic relief, but he fucks up big time.
He's so funny in this movie, bro.
But
he's funny as hell. I love even the opening scene where he's just reacting to Tom Cruise beating up Russians.
Yeah.
Where he's like,
that was cool, when he was walking through the Russian prison and just like
that
fighting
shit was
his way through
dope, bro.
Yeah, that was dope. That was a good way to open it with the little ball and the
exactly.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one, Ghost Protocol?
This one was great. I mean, I also remember seeing this opening weekend in IMAX as well. AMC Delamo,
Hey.
that's where I was at. And then they made a big deal out of the Burj Khalifa scene, but I think the rest of the movie also plays really well in IMAX, particularly the Kremlin explosion scene. I think that scene plays really well in IMAX too, because it's like the bigger screen and you get the full. I think on the Blu-ray version it's a little crowd, but I think in IMAX you literally see the entire building as it's kind of running away from it, and then the explosion happens. It's kind of dope.
That's another great example where obviously this movie is, like I said before, slightly tongue-in-cheek, slightly over the top. All these movies are, but this movie features some of my favorite bits.
Yeah.
With the water drop scene when they keep pulling up the LED screen closer and closer to the guy. I think that's hysterical.
Yeah.
Where he just keeps looking over.
Yeah.
And Benji, there's a scene where he puts his face on the camera. You see his close-up of his face on the LED screen.
Yeah.
And the guy turns around and then Tom Cruise pushes him out of the way. It's just shit like that makes it more entertaining for me. I don't know. I find this to be the most entertaining one of the most entertaining Mission Impossible movies.
You know what? I think, Brad Bird, I think this movie really has a more whimsical, almost like a more kiddish kind of touch to it. You know what I mean?
And I love that.
It takes itself a little less seriously than I think the other Mission Impossible movies do.
Exactly. And maybe that's what I appreciate about it. The fact that it is so like ridiculous.
Yeah, but then also I think with the animation aspect, I think the animation probably is a direct kind of effect of the creativity of having that like water drop scene like you talked about, of having scenes like the Burj Khalifa scene, which I could totally see that playing out in an animated film, no problem, but actually transcribing that into live action, that's impossible. But a lot of times animation directors are more willing to think outside of the box and are actually more willing to bend the actual logic of like reality, because in animation you could just kind of do whatever.
Sure.
Like I could totally see a Looney Tunes cartoon doing the Mission Impossible stuff. I could totally see, Dash from The Incredibles doing that kind of shit. But actually seeing that in real life and actually choreographing that, I'm sure they plotted out detail by detail every single step and every single second of that sequence. But through pre-visualization, through animation, all that shit. But just seeing that in live action is really breathtaking. So
100%. We got to give credit to animators and to animation directors.
Yeah.
I can tell you so many cinematic moments in shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, for example, or Legend of Korra, or anime that I watch like Attack on Titan or Ghost in the Shell or any My Hero Academia. Like some of the most cinematic moments are animated.
Right.
And you're right. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a perfect example. Where the directors and the creators are like, you know what? Let's think of things outside of the box that we can do with the camera, because it's animation.
Right.
So we can move the camera wherever the hell we want to move it. Let's do some cool shots. And I do that a lot in Into the Spider-Verse, and I loved it. I was like, yes, this is creative. It's different.
It really saddens my heart that this is the last good Brad Bird movie.
What was the last one he did?
Well, he did
Incredibles 2.
Tomorrowland, and then
Tomorrowland.
2.
Oh,
Yeah, so
yikes! I remember watching that in opening night, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. Again, and there's things. I'm not saying it. But I mean,
you
a lot
didn't
of
like
people.
Incredibles 2.
No, I hated Incredibles 2. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh.
I mean, a lot of people. I mean, listen, not a lot of people, but there are speculations. Hollywood. There's a lot of second unit help on Mission Impossible. I don't know. I'm not saying. I'm not reporting that. I'm just hearing what
This guy.
my ears to the streets.
You make eye contact with the camera.
Yeah, I just gotta let you know. I say that.
I did not say that.
Brad Bird, if you're hiring. Actually, no, I don't want to work for Brad Bird. He made Incredibles 2, bro. How disappointing. Although,
damn, bro, this movie was nominated for an Oscar.
Incredibles 2?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, it was. That's nasty.
It didn't
Why
win,
did
obviously.
Yeah, obviously Spider-Verse. But actually, Iron Giant, incredible classic. The first Incredibles, amazing. And Ratatouille, he stepped in at the last second to fix that film. So
come on now.
Big salute to that. And Mission Impossible was good too. I just don't fuck with Tomorrowland. I definitely don't fuck with Incredibles 2. But salute to Brad Bird, man. He did add his own spin to this move to the Mission Impossible franchise too. And I think it still has some remnants of the J.J. Abrams style in it too. It's actually still a Bad Robot production. So it does still have J.J. as a producer. I think he was originally supposed to direct this one, and then he stepped down, hence Brad Bird stepped up for it. But
you know what I love about this movie? Obviously, it features some of the best action scenes, but a staple of all these movies of the Mission Impossible franchise is tension, right? Tension building.
Right.
And that can be in action or that can be outside of action, but either way, creating tension is a very crucial part of these movies.
100%.
And I love the fake interview selling the drug scene, selling the nuclear codes, That scene, there's no action whatsoever. It's just two people sitting down talking to them. I don't know if you remember this scene.
Yeah.
And they're talking to each other, but they're trying to read each other to see if they're telling the truth or not.
Yeah.
That's such a tension-filled scene.
Yeah.
And it's just two people sitting down.
Jeremy Renner, yeah. By the way,
with Jeremy Renner.
Fuck, man, why isn't Jeremy Renner in this franchise anymore, man?
Bro.
He's my favorite character in this.
Right?
Yeah.
Finally, we agree. Come on, man.
Hey, man.
Come on.
There it is.
Jeremy Renner. I saw this again. I saw this one last night. I'm like, that's my boy, Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
I love Jeremy Renner.
The original plan was for Tom Cruise to step down and for Jeremy Renner to take over the franchise.
That's right. It was.
Same
and
way
he tried it again with Bourne.
Yeah.
Come on, he can't catch a break, bro.
His app is like, oh man, the fucking app. Yeah, I had to unfollow him on Instagram off the app though. I was like, oh, I can't.
Come on, man.
You done fucked up too much, bro. I can't
don't
do
unfollow him, bro.
People
give Jeremy Renner so much shit, and I know part of
the
it
app
is
wasn't
joking.
even his fault. The app wasn't even his fault. Yeah,
like his music. Let the guy make music, bro.
Yeah.
He wants to make some crazy average alternative rock. Good for him,
Crazy
man.
Average.
Like homie, he wants to star in Jeep commercials. Good for Jeremy Renner, bro.
Yeah.
He's a great actor.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I'm being real, I was watching this movie last night, Girls Protocol, and I'm watching Jeremy Renner's performance.
Yeah.
I can't lie. He was one of my favorite moments in Endgame. He was one of my favorite performances in Endgame.
Oh, yeah,
I
for
loved
sure.
him.
100%.
The scene with him and Black Widow going back and forth.
Yeah.
Peak beautiful Jeremy Renner.
Well, even the scene where he's killing all those Kawazawa dudes, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. Not just that. If I'm being real, even more real, Hawkeye is probably my most anticipated Disney Plus show for the Marvel ones.
Oh, yeah, actually,
I can't wait.
Plus?
Are you kidding me? Hell yeah.
Oh, man.
Bro, I have to. It's Star Wars. It's Mandalorian. It's Pedro Pascal. That's the Latino Brotherhood, man.
Yeah,
I gotta support that shit.
I don't have to sit this one out, though.
Oh, bro. Yeah. Breaking my heart. But either way, I'm genuinely, and it sounds like I'm trolling, a Jeremy Renner fan.
Nah,
I think he's incredible.
100%.
I think he's dope. He's, like you said, one of the best parts of the franchise.
And, I mean, listen, I'm not going to talk about Louis C.K., okay? But there was a great episode of Louis where Louis C.K. wasn't even in the episode. I guess it was by his childhood. And Jeremy Renner played, like, his semi-dad/mentor. And it was a 2-episode special. I swear, best performance on television. Like,
there you go.
That was
he's phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, dude,
he ripped that apart.
What's that movie? The Town.
The Town. Oh, The Town.
Kills
that.
The Town. Kills. He was nominated for an Oscar.
He's nominated for that.
And Hurt Locker too.
Hurt Locker too.
Yeah,
man. Jeremy Renner's
a beast.
He's had like a decade of just prime shit.
Just like
and people have just been sleeping on him, man.
Yeah, man. I love Jeremy Renner. He's my boy. And low key, like every time a movie features, have you heard his laugh in real life?
Nah.
Oh, bro, look up Jeremy Renner laugh, and you're just gonna be like, it's the funniest thing. And some movies have it, most movies don't.
Yeah.
But in interviews, you hear his, and he just has this goofy ass laugh. But I'm like, that's my boy. Let's go.
Jeremy's my guy, man.
Yeah, man. But he was in 5 though.
Was he?
Yeah. I remember him and Alec Baldwin.
Oh, okay.
Right? Hanging out with Alec Baldwin. Am I tripping? Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now. We should.
I don't know. I think. Yeah, we both have computers in front of us.
I know.
Hey, I think he wasn't 5. Actually, now that you're saying that, I think he wasn't.
I think he was in 5. I know he wasn't in Fallout, and he low key. Yeah, he was in 5. He was in Rogue Nation. He was great in that one too.
Yeah, why didn't he show up in Fallout?
He was funny in that. Because Henry Cavill took his spot, bro. Henry Cavill
is that for real?
The other strong white guy. We need a strong white guy. Henry Cavill, bro.
Yeah.
But either way, let's finish up on Ghost Protocol.
He was busy shooting Infinity War.
Oh, that's what it is.
Or Endgame.
Right.
He wasn't even in Infinity War. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Oh, you're right. He wasn't in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Either way, finishing up on Ghost Protocol, I can't lie. This movie's crazy. Obviously, the garage scene is insane.
Yeah.
Super over the top with all the cars flying everywhere.
Yeah.
But you're right. What stands out the most in this movie is the stunt scenes, Burj Khalifa, Jeremy Renner, and Benji being hysterical.
Yeah.
Moving on to, I'm going to guess your favorite of the Mission Impossible movies, Rogue Nation. Is this your favorite, man?
I don't know. Well, it's a real toss up between 5 and 6, if I'm being honest.
People loved this movie.
Yeah. I think
Tell me why.
I think to me, this is the first movie I felt like it really found its stride. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like how the Fast and Furious franchise really found its stride with the 5th one. And it was kind of, to me, it's almost really similar to the Fast and Furious franchise in terms of the direction that the films go, you know. First one was really, really good, but really, really grounded. Second one was over the top, and a lot of people don't like it. I fuck with the second.
Oh, me too. Too fast, bro.
Yeah.
I said, forget about it, cuh.
Yeah. the
My favorite line in Fast and Furious.
Oh, man, Tyrese is golden.
Pockets ain't empty, cuh.
Yeah. That one, so two was over the top. The third one is this franchise reinvention that is completely different. Same way in 3, same way with Tokyo Drift. The 4th one is like it getting to the place that it needs to get to, and the 5th one is like, all right, you got it, you nailed it. Like you totally understand the tone that you need to achieve here. You know, to me, this has the most even base level tone out of any of the out of any of the Mission Impossible films. It's not. You know, a lot of times, even including the Brian De Palma one, as much as I love it, it does have a lot of those moments of fluctuation. Is it a big over-the-top sci-fi film, or is it a grounded spy film, or is it kind of a laughable comedy where, like, some of the deaths are hilarious in that movie, you know? Yeah. But this movie was kind of like the most even-leveled, okay, we are just making a spy movie. We are just making a kind of based on European action movies, based on a lot of this, like a lot of really elegant and really suspenseful sequences that are being put together. I mean, obviously, they kind of get the biggest one out of the way first with the airplane, holding on to the side of the airplane. God, They kind of get that, they do that giant stunt, and then the rest of the movie kind of really doesn't have.
Except for the motorcycle one.
Motorcycle.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, I shouldn't even say that. Actually, there's a lot of great stunts in this movie. Yeah. The underwater stunt, to me, when
holy shit, that's this one, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that one's also like
that's insane. Really that's got to be up there, man. We're gonna rank them, but that's got to be up there.
Yeah. So I completely forgot about that one.
That one, and then obviously you love the opera scene.
Yeah.
Break down this scene for me.
To me, the opera scene is the most Hitchcockian that this franchise has ever gotten. You know what I mean? It's slow, it's intimate, it's set to this elegant music, and there's multiple levels of suspense that are happening at the same time. Is the suspense is Rebecca Ferguson's character going to shoot the prime minister? Is the suspense is Tom Cruise going to have time to stop her? Meanwhile, he's fighting a complete other dude who's like literally a foot taller than him. By the way, first time Tom Cruise movie ever referenced his height. That's never happened before in a Tom Cruise movie. Never.
That's probably because he said so, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he's a big star. He doesn't want to mess that up. But, I mean, this is the first time, I guess, the ego kind of got put aside to have for the sake of the action scene.
Before we move on, can I do a little side project with that? As a little homie myself, I gotta give props to Tom Cruise. He's one of the little homies that made it big.
Yeah.
Every time like people
he's shorter than you, I'm pretty sure.
That's what everyone says, but I don't know. I think he's exactly my height, or maybe a tiny bit shorter.
No. He's like 5'2".
But little homies that make it in Hollywood, like as like action stars or like badasses.
Usher.
Yeah, but he's a singer. I'm talking about like a Hollywood action star.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is the biggest one, but obviously the biggest one now is Kit Harington.
Is he short?
From Game of Thrones. Homie's my height. Kit Harington, Jon Snow. But in the show, Game of Thrones, especially in season 8, they make like 20 references like, you're the shortest man I've ever seen. Like, it's always the little man, Jon Snow, the little man riding the dragon, Jon Snow. Like, they say it all the freaking time. They reference his height so much because he's a short, he's like my height. So he's a small dude. But like you said, Tom Cruise doesn't. Everyone knows he's small, but you never really see it. Because he's on them Apple boxes, bro.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if it's like exactly Apple boxes all the time. You know, some people would even, you know, some actors, I don't know if this is true or not, but there are some people who say that actors literally have to find shorter co-stars sometimes just to like match the screen presence or whatever.
That's what they say, yeah.
So,
but I feel like, but yeah, because of framing. Because framing is just going to be so off.
Yeah.
But the thing about Tom is that he's so bigger than life and bigger than anything.
He compensates for that.
He compensates so much, and he doesn't do it in a Napoleon way. He does it in a very much like organic. I'm fucking Tom Cruise kind of way. Like come at me, bro.
Just the grin and the arrogance.
Where you see him on the red carpet, and you always see him with like the E! News interviewer is like a lady who's like this tall. And it's like, you know, I had a lot of fun making these movies. And he doesn't give a shit that he's tiny.
He's confident about it.
He's never like, whoa. And he never jokes about it. Like, he's always just like, what up, girl? Like, I'm like, yo, I see you, bro.
That's my guy, man.
That's my guy. I'm gonna marry a tall ass girl, just to F the haters, bro.
Man, I feel it, man. But
anyway, back to the opera scene.
But yeah, I think the opera scene in particular, it offers so many different levels of suspense. While one of the few movies I think that has all of these different kind of plots, you know, Rebecca Ferguson's on the right side of the building, Tom Cruise on the left side of the building, the guy's in the center, the opera is playing underneath. It has a very clear geography that they spend a lot of time laying out before the action even starts.
The blocking is very important.
Yeah. And the camera blocking is very important because if the camera is placed at one angle as opposed to another angle, you're just going to completely throw off the audience. So it's very consistent in the way that it's shot, and it's just very brilliant. I mean, I don't even know how you could plan out a scene like that.
Yeah,
you know?
It's difficult.
So
and let's do a little side note with that. Talk to me about like the reason why these movies are so successful. There is an art, and I said it already before, but the word art, I throw it around, but I'm throwing it around for a reason.
Right.
To creating these action set pieces, action set sequences, right? This isn't just like they fight in the bar, a bar fight. This is like blocked out for months, shot.
And I think that's why a lot of cinephiles and a lot of film fans appreciate the Mission Impossible movies more than a lot of other franchises because the action in a lot of these movies are very well thought out. I mean, particularly in this movie, I'm honestly blown away by this movie and by Fallout, the complexity that happens within some of these scenes. You know what I mean?
Talk to me a little bit about it.
I just think that, you know, there's a lot of logistical nightmares that could come with having that iconic motorcycle scene where they're going through all of these different iconic. What country were they in at that point? I forget exactly which country.
In which one?
And the fifth one when.
I forget. Yeah, because I know in the recent one it was like Paris, right?
Yeah. But mapping out mapping out the geography of that scene, the plan, the scheme of the underwater thing and transferring the drives and creating a whole nother level of conflict through that by having the terminals be spinning in rotation and how that's affecting the thing. Like, they literally go to the extreme and literally down to the last second when Benji is walking through the thing and they need that last second confirmation by him putting in the card. Like, it's literally so precise and so, a lot of movies don't get that creative. So
sure.
It's a big salute. And I think unlike any other franchise where you could clearly tell, for me, like the first Avengers resembles a lot of the Transformers Dark of the Moon last action sequence. You could point to a lot of action movies. You could point to a lot of action sequences and be like, that came from this movie, that came from that movie. Exactly. You can point to a lot of these movies and be like, exactly. You could point to them and you could just be like, yeah, this is where that came from.
You know
obviously.
Why? I insist in this is what it is, and I know I'm a big proponent of this, but CGI, man.
Yeah.
When I see a CGI, like I said before, like a CGI dude, it just takes me out of the movie.
Yeah.
And I know it's a CGI dude.
Yeah.
When he's flying around or there's a CGI crane falling down, I'm like, that's a CGI crane. I can see it.
Yeah.
There's something so beautiful about, you know what it is? And I go back to the third one because that's the one that stood out the most to me. And I can talk about Bad Boys as well. Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys, yeah.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Cars. Car crashes and car flips are always going to be the coolest shit for me on camera because everyone drives cars. Yeah. Everyone knows how much cars weigh. And cars weigh a fuck ton, right? So when you see a car go and it's a real car and not a CGI car, you feel it. You feel like, oh my God, there's a car like flying. That's why the Bad Boys chase scene in the highway where the cars are flying and they're actual cars flipping over and you can see the texture and the lighting that it's an actual physical car and not CGI cars. Like, no offense to your homies in Fast 8, for example, where I was like, this is taking me out of the movie completely. But that to me is like what makes the Mission Impossible movies, what makes all these action movies, what makes T2, for example, like
T2 is great.
One of the greatest action movies of all time because you feel the weight of the actual physical objects.
Yeah, but by the way, though, there is the one scene that I don't like in Mission Impossible 6 is the scene with the CGI cars in Paris. I think it was in Paris.
Yeah,
when he's on a motorcycle and he's kind of going around.
Because you can tell they're CGI.
Well, yeah, it's not even that you could tell by the fact that they look CGI. You could tell by the fact there's just too many cars. Like, there's no way that many cars will be on that rotation at the same time that Tom Cruise is riding
do you like the motorcycle scene in 6 in Rogue Nation?
And the fifth one, yeah, I like them. I like them all. I love them all. I love when Tom Cruise is on the motorcycle and he kind of does one of these turns, and then literally his knee like barely touches the asphalt, and he keeps going. Like, bro, if his knee would have been there for 0.3 more seconds, he would have been dead. Like, I swear, just like the knee touching the ground, like I would literally just like lose it.
And it's one of those things where one of the biggest selling factors of these movies, we talked about him doing his own stunts.
Yeah.
But he does his own driving stunts too.
Yeah,
which is, like I said before, not
with
everyone
no helmet,
like riding a motorcycle. He's an actual like professional stunt driver, Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
professional motorcycle driver, Tom Cruise. Professional pilot. He's like an actual pilot, Tom Cruise, and we see that in Fallout, where he's actually flying the damn helicopter, and they don't need to cut away or show another guy because it's actually him flying it. Shit like that is what makes him like, you crazy, man. That's why everyone calls him crazy, because he's low-key crazy.
Yeah.
Because he knows...
Good crazy,
but he knows how to do all this shit.
Yeah.
He's like a modern renaissance man when it comes to stunts.
And, there's been a lot of, talk about how Tom Cruise's career has progressed over the years, how he kind of started out in the 80s and the 90s as doing real serious professional kind of studious type of roles. Even all the way up until 1999's Magnolia, which he was also nominated for Academy Award for that movie too. And I'm not sure if he actually ended up ever winning an Oscar. I know he was nominated a bunch of times.
A bunch.
But I don't think he's ever won. He's been nominated 3 times, but he's never won an Oscar for Born on 4th of July, Jerry Maguire, and Magnolia. But he's never won one. So a lot of people think that this turn in his career is less motivated by... he tried the acting. He tried being the serious professional actor thing in the 80s and 90s. Now in the 2000s, he's kind of he's exercising a new skill in acting, the new skill of adapting different. Now he's just, a lot of people just say he's doing it for fun. You know what I mean? It's just fun for
obviously. But I mean, money.
But fun, money, and exploration. I think is the main thing. You know what it is? You know what I mean?
Even more than that. You know what it is? Exploration, creativity. RB3.
Yeah.
The homie is creative, and he likes creating shit.
Yeah.
And that's so refreshing in Hollywood today, where we see a lot of people kind of lose or lack creativity.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise loves being creative. He loves collaborating with stunt coordinators and stunt doubles and director Christopher McQuarrie. They're like homies. They do this shit together. They're almost co-directors in this shit.
Yeah.
With how much they collaborate. That's what's so refreshing about Tom Cruise making these movies is that he knows, first of all, the international appeal of the Mission Impossible franchise can't go unnoticed.
Right.
I mean, he travels all over the world promoting these movies because he knows they make so much money overseas.
Right.
But a lot of it, like you said, it's one of those things where he's like, you know what? I tried the Born on 4th of July, Jerry Maguire, actor, follow the director's thing. Now I'm going to be a producer. And this is what a producer-actor does.
Yeah, and
they think outside the box.
And I saw some interview. I don't know if it was with him in particular, or someone associated with Tom Cruise, but they talked a lot about how Tom more than anything, as a producer, he wants to make sure the audience gets their money worth. You know, when
That's
they're
right.
buying,
He
they're
did
buying,
say that.
You know,
That's
they're
a good
buying a
line.
ticket, and
Yeah.
you know, they're paying what, $14 for a ticket. Wants to get their money's worth. You know, I mean, I appreciate somebody who has that philosophy, especially on the producers level. You know, because there's a lot of producers who just frankly don't give a fuck if people like their movies.
True.
But he actually cares, and he actually really
entertainment, right? He wants to entertain you.
Yeah,
he wants to
yeah,
make you
yeah.
feel something, and that's like you said, most studio people don't care.
Yeah, no, 100%.
For example, Sony.
Yeah. No,
let's get into
Now you're just taking
Sony,
shots.
bro.
You're just
Come
taking
on,
shots.
let's be
You're just
real. The
what?
fact that they use Venom as the way, we did Venom, man. We're gonna make great Spider-Man movies. Venom sucked.
Well, they also made
ass.
they made Into the Spider-Verse.
And Spider-Man
They made Into the
is not
Spider-Verse.
Venom.
They made Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Into the Spider-Verse does not count.
Why not?
By a mile
Why
does
not?
not count.
Why not?
Because it's not the same producers, it's not the same creators, and it's not the same directors as the people who are behind the Spider-Man franchise.
But they're still keeping the homie John Watts on for the third Spider-Man movie, right?
100%. They are.
So,
yeah. Give
I
a
mean,
lot of
there's-
credit to him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you use Venom as an example of success, you don't care about the audience.
I mean, they made the money.
That's what I'm
they're
saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what Tom Cruise is saying.
Yeah.
He's saying, yeah, of course, money, but also good and fun and entertaining and quality.
Yeah, but I think Sony is capable of making a good movie every now and then, Ace. I mean, come on, man. Once Upon a Time Hollywood just came out. That was pretty all right. Like, Sony released that shit.
You said, all right, bro.
I mean, it was good. You know what I mean? It was good. It was really good.
Let's get off
I actually
topic.
been really,
Off
really, I really
topic.
fuck with that movie. Especially, I saw it 3 times, so I got it.
See,
I got it better.
You had to see it 3 times to finally get into it.
Nah, well, the first
Let's
time
be
I saw it,
real.
I already told you the first time I saw it, they fucked it up for me. Projector went out. Second time I came in late. Third time was really. First time I saw it all the way through the way it should have been seen.
Let's finish up with Fallout, and then we can kind of talk about our favorite moments.
Yeah, Fallout. Yeah,
This is the most recent one. This is the one that everyone loved.
This is probably close.
People
close up
put it in
there
their
for me,
top
too.
10 movies of the year and shit.
Yeah, I mean
Like-
deservedly so. I think this is the cinematography in this movie is beautiful.
You know what? Obviously, the biggest story in this one is still Stashgate for me. Hashtag Stashgate. Bro, Paramount versus Warner Brothers.
Hey, man,
Stashgate.
who won that?
Snyder
Who won
Cut.
that? That's a Paramount
dude,
dub right there.
This documentary needs to happen.
Yeah.
Come on. But either way, talk to me about this one, RB3.
I just think the amount of preparation that went into this movie is insane. Just from the Halo jump, that literally, I can't even imagine how long that took to plan out. Like you said, the bathroom fight is complex and all over the place. I mean, that could have just, and it's funny, even as I was watching the bathroom fight the first time, there are multiple times during that fight, you're just like, all right, it's gonna stop, and they keep going, like it just keeps going. So I really fuck with that. Again, the preparation it takes to learn how to fly a plane, learn how to fly a helicopter, is insane to me. Just everything about this movie is just it's the epitome of to me. This movie is the epitome of having a diverse set of action, a diverse set of character like ideology, where everybody's kind of playing for their own agenda for the most part. I mean, obviously Benji and Vin Rames are like on team Tom Cruise, but we see Rebecca Ferguson character in here again. She has her own prerogative. Mm-hmm. Angela Bassett is like this new character that they add in, and she like doesn't really give a fuck about anything else. Henry Cavill, again, he plays that role of like the betrayal that we normally see in these movies. So there's a lot of different moving pieces in this, and as the original TV show was focused on the more team mentality that the Mission Impossible franchise was originally built on, to me, it really wasn't until 4, 5, and 6 that they really started to hone in on that, and especially in the 6th one. I think the 6th one was the first time that we met Alec Baldwin in the beginning of the 5th one, testifying against the IMF or whatever. But then we see him at the end of the 6th one, like dying literally after being shot, and it's like the most heartfelt, sincere moment because we actually have started getting those connections to these characters. So like I said, I think it really holds its own. It really holds its own weight. You know what I mean?
Even the shootout in the underpass with the van, and they're all going for the van where they're all wearing masks and stuff. That scene's dope. It's super cool.
And I love to me, all of the movies have the scenario where they imagine what's going to happen.
That's what it was. It was an what would happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But to me, this movie handled it the simplestly with the most simplicity, but also to me with the most grace. You know what I mean? It was just a lot of times it's like these flashy like cut here, cut here, cut here. This one is a very somber, like very quiet, no soundtrack, no sound, just a one take sequence of the guys coming out and committing like these violent actions, and just something that Tom Cruise just can't stand, or Ethan Hunt just can't stand for.
Yeah, to me, as much as undercover as he is. Yeah,
right. And to me that's dope, because that's the first time that moment has ever been used, not as a moment to like show off the flashy. A lot of times those moments are also used. Brian De Palma used it in the original movie to show you what is at stake and what can go wrong at what particular places. But this is the first time they used that moment to show you inside of the character's philosophy. This is the first time they used that moment as a POV inside of Ethan Hunt's mind. And I think as these movies go further and further down the line, we are starting to get more of a character study of Ethan Hunt. And I think, honestly, to me, his performance, Tom Cruise's performance, like actual acting in between the scenes, is actually getting better and better, like, as these films progress.
Because he's becoming a more fleshed out character.
Yeah, exactly. Because in three, they were kind of redefining him. They're still trying to figure that out. And then 4 was still figuring that out too. But I think also credit to Christopher McQuarrie, he is very much, I think, a more character driven writer director than Brad Bird, than JJ, than John Woo, and almost to some extent almost to Brian De Palma, because Christopher McQuarrie started out as a writer, and one of the first movies he wrote was The Usual Suspects, a very intricately plotted character evaluation of all of these different criminals and characters. And he's always had a knack for getting real inside and deep into the mind of characters. So I think as he's writing and directing these movies, he's kind of embracing that a lot more.
Absolutely.
So, I'm with it.
And a lot of it too is the fact that Christopher McQuarrie goes hand in hand with obviously the action set pieces, but the storyline too. Right. And that's one thing he talked about in the behind the scenes of the bathroom fight, where he talked about like each fighting style is a defining characteristic of what the character is feeling and thinking,
right.
And how he made them so different. But yeah, let's talk about our favorite moments in this movie. I can't lie, man. That bathroom fight to me is just stellar. It's so fun. And it's so, I don't know, it makes Henry Cavill seem so much cooler.
Yeah.
And
we did the reloading of
it's
the
so
arms.
good.
Yeah,
and the mustache added a lot to his character.
Yeah,
I really think it did. And I loved it. And I love the idea of him being like this giant tank who's like an equal to Tom Cruise.
Right.
And obviously at the end, he's revealed to be the bad guy. And I got to give a shout out, and I know she's hardly in it, to my girl Vanessa Kirby. Princess Margaret.
When she
That's my girl. That was the Crown.
Yeah, it was funny when she made out with Tom Cruise in that one scene. I was like, "Yo, where did this come from?" But I thought, I don't know. That also seems very much like a Hitchcockian, like a blonde femme fatale, like going, splitting the edges between all the people, who she's involved with, and. I think this. I think also what is also a great accomplishment in this scene. I'm sorry, in this movie is the return of Solomon Lane and like the continuation of the story from the fifth one. Because this is not only the first time we saw a director crossover. This is the first time we see an actual serialized story point.
Villain,
yeah, like a recurring villain. It's a different, it's slightly different this time who they're searching for, but it's Solomon Lane is like kind of the main focus. And this is the first time we're seeing a villain return. This is the first time we're seeing a director return. This is the first, I think, and I think maybe Tom Cruise will even admit to this. After 5, he's finally felt comfortable in what the Mission Impossible franchise is going to be going forward. And
we have to give a shout out. Breaking news as of, I believe, last week, our girl Haley Atwell.
Oh, she's
going to be the co-star of Mission Impossible 7.
Yeah.
Shout out to my girl.
Are they bringing Rebecca Ferguson back, though?
I don't know.
They have to,
they just said Haley so far, but I'm assuming that just new cast maybe.
Yeah.
As far as Haley Atwell.
Well, I think if anything, this is also the first time when the main side woman has returned to the Mission Impossible franchise too, Rebecca Ferguson.
No, his wife too, right?
I mean, his wife was never like...
That's true, like a side character.
Yeah. I mean, his wife just always...
You're right, because we never saw Maggie Q again. We never saw Paula Patton again.
Yeah.
100%. I bet people loved Rebecca Ferguson by a lot. Yeah. So either way, man, that kind of concludes our movie talk about these movies. Let's rank the action set pieces. Let's do 1 through 3. What is your top 3 action set pieces? You don't have to make it specific. You can make it off the top of your head.
Yeah, I mean, to me, number 1 is going to be the Halo jump sequence.
Really?
Brilliant piece of cinema right there. When I first saw it, completely blew me away. You see so many of these jumping out the planes, and they're one takes. I think literally they had a one take flight jump sequence that happened. What was that movie, Overboard, with the Nazi zombies?
I forgot the name of the movie.
Overboard or some shit like that.
Yeah, that was cool.
But they had a one take, and that literally came out months after Fallout did. And they had a one take jumping out the plane sequence too. But that one, you can clearly tell it was all CGI. It was all shot on a green screen.
It was, yeah.
This movie, you can clearly tell that they at least shot portions of it, like in actual falling. Like actually real-time falling type shit. You know what I mean? And if they faked it, they did a damn good job faking it because I would never be able to tell.
That's the thing.
But they actually shot that.
If I'm being real, I thought that was fake.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no freaking way that's possible.
Yeah.
And then there's a behind-the-scenes video.
Yeah.
All of it was freaking real.
Yeah.
All of it. And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
That's not humanly possible. That's insane. And the fact that it's a oneer RB3, like, bro.
Well, to be fair, they shot it a bunch of times and they probably stitched together a lot of different takes. For sure.
But the fact that
it's presented as a
I thought it was him CGI jumping.
Yeah.
Like that movie, like you said. I forget the name of the movie. I don't think it's Overboard, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I thought that was fake, like just it's all CGI. But that's because some of the background is CG. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, the background is CGI.
They add the dark clouds and the lightning. Yeah, they add the
clouds and the lightning for sure, yeah. I mean, that, and of course that is Overlord. That's what the movie's called.
Overlord, yeah.
Yeah, of course those parts are CGI, and they can never really fall in a real thunderstorm.
Of course, but what I'm saying is that maybe that's why I thought it was fake.
Yeah.
And then after the movie, I was like, oh, when I heard that was real, no, that was real. I was like, what the hell? He actually jumped out of a damn plane?
Yeah.
Like, bro.
Well, just know, to me, it either had to, when I first saw it, the first thing I thought is either it had to be real, or they must have had the biggest CGI budget of all time because there's because there was just so many ways the camera was moving, and ways that I don't think a CGI.
But the lighting was sick. And you can see his face.
Yeah, the face. Yeah, and that's very intentional.
The red.
That's the intentional choice to make you know that these are the real actors, and that's why the Henry Cavill character is often kind of distorted off to the side because they don't want to
throw Superman out of a plane.
Right. But you see actual Tom Cruise literally doing that shit.
Yeah.
A lot of people say this is how Iron Man would have looked if Tom Cruise had been Iron Man with the open face mask.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
But
I'm happy with our Robert Downey.
Oh yeah, of course.
What about number 2?
Number two for me. I mean, I don't really think the opera scene necessarily counts as an action scene.
Yeah.
But if I am taking 1 from 5, it will be the motorcycle sequence. That one was brilliant, and of course 3 is the Burj Khalifa scene as well. But I really want to find Burj Khalifa from the fourth one. I really want to find a place in the top 3 for the knife and the eye thing.
Sure.
Because out of how terrible that movie is, there's no denying. Like, if a motherfucker almost sticks a knife in my eye that close, and they had to, you can only imagine how close they had to be because the camera had to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that to me is next level too. But
I'll start with my number 1. It's still always going to be the Dubai Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
That to me just. Maybe it's the way I saw it with the IMAX cameras and all that and all the shots they get from it, but that just blew me away.
Yeah.
Blew me away.
Yeah.
If I had to do a number 2, I would have to say, do that Halo jump really just is bonkers. It's so crazy. And if I had to do, hanging out of a plane is pretty crazy too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't lie, that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
But if just a personal thing, I would say the underwater hold your breath for fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Shit.
Because he really held his breath.
That's what I'm saying. As a swimmer, because that's what I was growing up, I can hold my breath for a long ass time.
Yeah.
And every time they do an underwater scene in movies, I kind of imagine like, can I do this? So that for me was just like so effective because I've held my breath for super long.
Right.
I used to do it longer than my brother and I would do longer than anyone on the swim team.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because they give him an oxygen suit thing that says you only have 5 minutes to breathe, but he literally had to hold his breath for I think like 6 minutes and 21 seconds or some bullshit like that.
Oh, in the movie,
yeah, in the movie,
yeah.
But like in real life, he actually had to like hold his breath for like way longer than
100,
than the actual oxygen suit the fake movie gave him. You know what I mean? It's just kind of funny.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things where he's so insane that he can do weird shit like that.
Right.
Where it's like, who can do that? Only like professional swimmers can do that shit.
Yeah.
Believe me, that's a long ass time. Like as a former swimmer, I can tell you that's pro level.
I can't hold my breath for more than 30 seconds. That's facts.
No, I'm pretty good, but even now I'm like, yo.
Yeah.
And doing shit at the same time.
Yeah, and literally acting.
And acting.
Yeah.
Let's pick a funny thing is like every single one of these movies, RB3, has a Tom Cruise running moment.
Yeah.
And look how fast and look how crazy I can run.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. Like I literally think all 5 or 6 of these movies have like a running.
No, all of them do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like even 3 when he's running along China in the little China bridge.
Yeah. And he's trying to outrun a missile on the highway.
Which one?
In the third one?
In the third one too, yeah. But I'm saying like the one long take of him running.
Yeah.
What's your favorite running? It's classic, right? Like in every single one of these movies, you're gonna get a Tom Cruise runs.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's undeniable. The fourth one where he's outrunning a sandstorm,
right?
I
think that's unanimous. That's that overhead shot of him running and then the sandstorm chasing him. It's just like,
you can't
bro,
top that. There's no way you can top that.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fallout has the
best one.
Like
with
you're
the
catching
one
him.
take.
You're getting him, and the fact that Benji's like, you almost got him. You almost got him, and he's like. And it's like world class sprinter Tom Cruise.
And literally like a oneer of like him running. Like
it's just
that, and
that's top 2.
And you know, maybe that one should take the top spot only because he actually broke his ankle doing that shit, making that jump. But yeah, I mean,
dude, watching that on screen, it makes you physically exhausted.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's so hard to do. Like it really is incredibly difficult because you're sprinting and you have to do several takes. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, maybe I can do that for like 2 minutes of sprinting, but not again and again and again and cut. All right, let's run it back. Like no, I'm done. I'm gassed out.
Yeah, he didn't want to take it out a day for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So props to him. He's not a young homie, and yet he is literally in peak physical shape.
Yeah.
And he's almost literally Ethan Hunt because he can do everything that Ethan Hunt can.
Yeah.
Maybe the only thing he can't is like maybe the crazy martial arts.
Yeah.
But besides that, like he can do all that shit.
Yeah.
Props to Tom Cruise. Props to the Mission Impossible franchise. It's one of your favorites, so I definitely am glad we talked about it.
One of the better franchises for sure.
There you go, man. Alrighty, guys. If you enjoyed that conversation, make sure you give us a like on YouTube. Make sure you give us a comment on iTunes. Make sure you give us a shout out. I'm at Squad Leader Race on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. I'm at Director RB3. And listen, fam, we got
episode 100 coming
up. So you got to throw in your voicemails, throwing everything. Go to Anchor. Go to the link in the description down below to get the link to our Anchor account so you can send us a voice message. We want to take all of the mugs. We want to listen to them all. And we want to take your questions. So tweet at me and Ace throughout the week. Yo, what are questions for episode 100? Questions for us as the meaning of podcast in general. It's gonna be your week. It's gonna be your it's gonna be your episode.
Before we started the Meeting Enough podcast, we did a Q&A with people. So give us a Q&A, guys.
Yeah, Q&A. Yes.
We can give you what you want to hear, whatever it is. Alrighty, guys. For the Meeting Enough podcast, I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
And we're peacing out. Peace out, guys.